The best way to know what a composable is and how it works is to create a new project with it and use it in action. So I have Android Studio and I press new project to create a new compose project. On the new project dialog, I select empty activity, empty compose activity, and press next. And here for the name of my application, I write compose demo, for example. The focus in this lesson, by the way, is on how a composable is created. And I'm not focusing too much on how the project is created because we will discuss that in another lecture. Package name, save location. I set the save location to the folder of this course, and I make sure that minimum SDK is API 21, and then press finish and wait for the project to be created. Alright, our project is created. Now we are going to create our own composable inside main activity. As you can see, already we have several composables that have been added by Android Studio. For example, we have a composable named greeting that receives a name and then prints hello and then that name. In fact, it greets that name. And we have another composable that has also the preview annotation, and its job is to preview that composable and show the output inside the preview pane on the right. In order to have that preview, we need to build the project in order to make the preview appear on the right. So I press the hammer icon on the toolbar to make the project. Alright, as you can see, we have a preview of the composables that we have defined. In fact, Android Studio has defined on the left. You can see that it's pretty simple. It's a Kotlin function with the name of greeting, but it has been annotated with the @composable annotation. And we also have another composable that is annotated with the preview annotation, and that is, as I mentioned, used to preview another composable. So let's take a look at the set content section. In the onCreate method, which is a normal function, a normal method of the main activity class, we have a special method called setContent, which sets the content that is to be displayed in our activity. And that content in turn is generated using composables and the compose UI. We have our theme here, compose demo theme, that has a body, and inside the body we have another built-in composable, surface, and inside the body of surface we have greeting, which in turn displays Android aligned with hello and greets the name that is passed to this function. This might seem a little bit overwhelming for the first time, but I'm going to make it very simple to understand. So I'm gonna remove the composables that have been added by Android Studio, and also the call to surface, and also the call to compose demo theme, because we are not going to deal with themes just now. yet. So we only leave set content, and later we will fill in this gap. Here, after the end of main activity body, I'm going to create a new composable. In fact, let's create our own versions of composables. I'm going to create a simple composable that gets in a parameter for an image, a resource address inside the drawable directory, and then displays the image that is represented by that resource. So I call this function, for example, fun my composable, my picture composable. It has a body because it's a function, it's a Kotlin function. And here, let's not forget that it also receives a parameter that is the image. And that image is of the type integer because it's a resource address. And here we use a composable from the Jetpack Compose library for displaying images. I call image, and as you can see, we have several options for importing image. Import. I select the second one, which is from the androidx.compose.foundation library. There are a few ways to call the image composable. I use the second format using a painter. So I write painter equals painter resource, and then I pass it the image that has been given to the function image. And then the second parameter to this composable is content description. Content description, a sample image. In fact, we can pass the content description along with the other parameter to my picture composable. So we pass it there, description string, and then we use it here as the value of the content description parameter for the image composable. All right. Now let's have a preview of this composable in another composable. So I create a composable and I make it a preview by adding the preview annotation, @preview. I create a function, Kotlin function. I name it preview picture. Preview picture composable. And for preview, you should not pass in any parameters. That's a limitation, and that's a rule from Compose you need to respect. Inside the preview, but we can pass any parameter that we want to another composables. So I call my picture composable, and for image I pass in, for example, r.drawable.eagle, some image that I will have in my drawable directory. Currently I don't have it, but I will add it to the drawable directory. And for description I write eagle. I already have the picture of an eagle downloaded to my pictures folder. So I go there in order to bring it to my drawable directory in Android Studio. Copy, Control-C, and back to Android Studio, project, Android View, and drawable, paste it to the drawable folder with Control V, and make sure that you put it in the drawable folder. Okay, I name it Eagle to be consistent with the name that we used here. There we go. Now we have our image recognized here, and we have our composable. In order to be able to see this preview, we need to refresh the preview pane. So I press this button here, the refresh button, to make it build and refresh the preview. There we go. You can see that our preview is being displayed. We have our composable, and our composable is being previewed on the right in the preview pane. We have it. What if we want to have several previews of composables in Android Studio? Fortunately, it's possible. For example, if you have several composables that create UI, you can have several previews of them. In order to show that, I'm going to create another preview composable. And I'm going to name it, for example, preview composable 2. And what it's supposed to do is to do exactly what we did here, but with another picture this time. So I call my picture composable, and image and description. For image, I'm going to use another picture. So I go and find another picture to be used for this composable. I go to my web browser and go to a photo sharing website like Pixabay, and here search for a picture like bird, for example. I select this picture, open it, free download, select the smallest size, download, save file. I save it in my pictures directory, and then I pick it from the pictures directory by copying it, Control C, and paste it to Android Studio's drawable directory. Control V, the drawable directory. Okay, I name it bird, an easy to remember name, and then I use it as the value of the image parameter sent to my picture composable, r.drawable.bird. And for the description, I use bird, for example. Alright, now I refresh the preview section and wait for the new preview to appear. Didn't work. I refresh it again. This happens sometimes. Alright, there we have it. Now we have two previews in our preview pane in Android Studio. This shows that you can have multiple previews in Android Studio, and this works by creating a preview for every composable that has been annotated with the preview annotation. The next step is to run our application on an emulator or a real device. For that, we need to put our desired composables and UIs inside the set content section. So inside the set content block, I use one of these composables, for example. I use the first one, preview picture composable. Inside the body of it, you see my picture composable. I copy the whole line, Control C, and paste it inside set content. Alright, now we are ready to run our application on the emulator and see the output on the device. For that, I will be using my Pixel 4 API 30 emulator. Also make sure that from the Run Configuration section, you select App. So I press the Run button and wait for the application to be built and installed on the emulator. Alright, our application was launched. You can see that the content of our composable that basically displays an image is displayed on the body of our screen or our activity. So that's it basically for how we create composables in Android Studio and how we preview them when we are designing our UIs in Android Studio. I hope that you like this video and I see you in the next one.